Welcome to a Song of Ice and Fire Symposium. My name is Nav.
And I'm Harmit.
And this is a Game of Thrones, chapters 45 and 46, Eddard and Daenerys. In these chapters, Ned tries to play the Game of Thrones, and Daenerys finds out that Viserys is no dragon. Welcome to the podcast, everyone. I hope y'all are doing okay. We're doing okay. I'm kind of cold, but I'm okay. Hey, so today is Saturday, May 1st, and the episode that we recorded last week came out today. Woohoo! So that means we are all caught up. And the plan from now on is to record on Saturdays and have a new episode out on Wednesdays. Fingers crossed. They can't hear you crossing your fingers. You have to say it.
I'm crossing my fingers.
But yeah, I'm excited. I really just pushed through all I didn't really edit. I just made sure that, the points where we get too loud aren't so loud that it like bursts people's eardrums. That was like the main point of the editing and how I approached it. But now we're done, and hopefully it'll be all good. Wish us luck. Yay. Okay, now let's get to the point of this episode. I have a question for you, Harmut.
Okay.
Which chapters did you read this time?
I read the Eddard chapter, then I read the Daenerys chapter.
Good job.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's just get into it. There's a thing we do where I time you, right? That's a thing?
Yes.
Okay, let me pull out I always forget until we get to this point, and then I have to go to my phone and pull out the timer and thing. Okay. 30 seconds each. I'll just say switch. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, we start the
wait. Hold on. I was in the wrong thing. Oh, crap. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so we start the chapter, and Ned's talking to Pycelle, and they're kind of having a moment, and Pycelle's like, bro, you should be scared, and he's like, excuse me? And then Ned goes and, and then Baelish, dude, Littlefinger comes in, and they have a conversation. Littlefinger's like, maybe you should try not to get splattered by a horse next time. And then he goes and talks to Fat Tom, and then he goes and talks to Cersei, and it's a whole big reveal, and it's this like really intense moment.
Switch.
Daenerys. So Daenerys is eating the heart of a
eating the horse of a heart.
Eating the heart of a horse, and she has to swallow it down, and she had to train for this. Anyway, so she's eating the heart of a horse. She gets that done. She's like, woohoo! And then Viserys dies. They're at a feast. Oh, her son's gonna be the stallion that mounts the world.
Okay, that's a minute. I had to urge you on because just talk about the main things. You don't actually have to summarize it. You can just be like, Cersei, Game of Thrones, kids, Jaime's. It's Jaime's. As you so succinctly put in your text message. That's what you said.
I know, but I don't know why I put it. It was like a 2 a.m. thought. It was like, their kids are it.
Well, you probably were like, Joffrey's not enough of a human being to...
Oh my gosh. That would be so rude of me. I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, okay. So, let's start with dear old Eddard. I always say that. Eddard, Ned. Okay, so Ned's talking to Pycelle, and Pycelle's like, your leg be broken, and Ned's like, I know. And then Pycelle's like, Tywin totally sent a letter that he was mad. You should know. And Ned's like, he would be defying the king. He should know. I don't know what I'm doing. But basically, Pycelle's trying to intimidate Ned with Tywin's threats. And Ned's like, I ain't having any of this. And when Pycelle, I think he leaves or at some point, Ned thinks to himself that he was not near as confident of Robert as he pretended, but there was no reason Cersei need know that, because Pycelle is very clearly her agent, and he's gonna go whisper things back to her and whisper. Okay.
Mm-hmm. But I was also thinking about it, this is just an observation. I made it sound like a big deal, but it's not. But Pycelle was the one who gave Jon Arryn the book, right? Because Pycelle had the book?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're like, why would he help?
Yeah.
Well, do you think Pycelle knows the big secret?
I don't know. I was thinking about that, and I was like, I don't know if he... Because I was like, maybe he did know, and he was, trying to get Jon Arryn to figure it out. But then I'm like, there's nothing that Pycelle has done so far that would say that he would do that, Mm-hmm. So I'm like, there's really no evidence. I was just speculating.
Yeah. So Pycelle leaves, and Ned's thinking back to what Sansa said, and he's like, I can't believe she's the one that cracked it. And, he just talks in these very vague terms. It's not the secret isn't made evident until he's talking to Cersei. But, going back, you obviously know what he's thinking. And he's like, one day I'll have to tell her that she got it for me. She made it all clear. I don't know.
Yes.
So, at this point, Littlefinger comes in and he's like, I'm gonna go eat a goat. I don't know. He's like, I have a dinner to get to. Just wanted to let you know that Robert's hunting a boar now because the White Hart was killed by wolves. And Joffrey and the Hound and some people have returned, and that's what's happening. See ya, basically.
I love when he was like, try not to get trampled next time or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, Littlefinger, you are too much.
Yeah, and he spots the book that Jon Arryn was reading as he's leaving the room. And Ned, for a second, he's like, well, I wonder if I should tell Littlefinger about all the things that I've discovered. And then he's like, yeah, though I don't trust these people. And then Littlefinger makes some stupid joke about how if Jon Arryn was reading that book when he died, then death must have come as a relief.
Yes.
But fair enough. Okay, why don't you do some of the talking?
Okay, so as Littlefinger, I always think of Patire now, but anyway, as Littlefinger, it's Peter, right? That's how you're supposed to...
Yes, it's supposed to be Peter, but Patire, whatever.
We've just said it so many times as a joke now that I'm like, which one's real?
One.
Okay, so as Ned is talking to Peter, Peter's like, oh, the Hound, he might not be happy that you did this.
Oh, yeah, I totally forgot about this part. And Ned's like, what are you talking about? He hates his brother. And then Littlefinger has this great quote, I think. He says, Gregor was his to loathe, not yours to kill. Which is kind of how we can be with our siblings sometimes.
Yeah.
Obviously, not to this extent, but I'll be shitting on my brother all day, every day, and then somebody says anything about him and I'm his best defender.
Exactly, yeah. That's the perfect description of a sibling relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
so, and then thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, Ned's like, yeah, I'm glad the Hound's back. He's the one I was worried about since Jaime's gone. And then he's thinking about...
Well, you meant that sarcastically, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So then Ned's like, oh, well, my daughters are going to go back. He's like, oh, Robert's coming back. And now my daughters are going to be heading back home, so now I have to tell Ned the truth out of my duty. And he's like
Robert.
having this like sorry, Robert. I have to tell Ned. I was trying to say Robert.
I have to sit myself down in front of a mirror and really talk it out.
Yeah. So he's like, he's like, my duty and just like my morals, I have to tell Ned, but I don't want Ned.
You did it again!
I have to tell King Robert.
Bobbert, remember?
It's funny because there's only one Ned in the story. So
Yeah.
there's like the one name that there's only one of. Okay, Robert. So he has to tell Robert. And he's like, you know what? And he's like, okay, morally I have to tell Robert, but at the same time, I don't want Robert to do to Cersei's kids what
was done to Rhaegar's kids.
Yeah. And he's
they were
like
tiny children and they were killed.
Yeah, and he's having this like moral dilemma, and he's like, what do I do? And then he's like, I know what I'm gonna do. Or
I'm gonna call on Fat Tom.
Yes.
And he does. And he's kind of like sizing Tom up, and he's like, okay, this dude, he's loyal and all, but he's not the most athletically capable person.
Yeah.
And then he's thinking back to how he sent off all his best
Yep.
people with Beric Dondarrion. And I'm like, you should have thought about that before.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't have been so high and loyal and mighty, and you should have thought about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, that's just Ned. That's his fatal flaw. That's gonna be his fatal flaw. Like I said, he's gonna die someday. Just his, like, honor before, like, everything. Like, that's gonna get him killed.
Okay, so you think his honor is gonna get him killed?
Yes.
Okay.
His, like...
Cool.
There's gonna be some point where it's, like, honor or his own life, and, you know, he's gonna be like, well, honor.
I would rather die honorable than live a dishonorable life. So, okay, Ned's gonna die one day, but this day he's gonna go to the Godswood.
Yes.
And since he can't really walk, you know, he has to get Tom and somebody else to help him there. And once he gets there, he's like, hey, Tom, take this totally cool letter to this totally cool person with totally cool consequences. I don't know.
I love that Tom was like, are you sure?
You sure about this?
Yeah, and I'm like, that's so funny that all these people are like, Cersei, you know?
Yeah. And so we don't know that it's Cersei that he sent for until she came to him at sunset. It's like such a... I love that line because it's so dramatic.
This entire, like, the entire time, like you said before, like, Ned talks to himself like he's, like, writing poetry. He's like, tra-la-la-la, tra-la-la. I'm like, sir, just say what you need to say. But it's fun to read, and sometimes he has, like, really good lines where you're like, ooh, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Cersei comes along, and she's there alone, as Ned had asked her to come. And Cersei's like, well, what the hell are we doing here out in the woods? And he's like, well, I wanted the gods to see. And I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
It makes sense. And he talks about how even though there's no weirwoods down south, just being outside, like, around the trees, it feels like his gods are surrounding him, which is kind of cool. Like, it's cool to be around nature sometimes.
Yes.
Especially when there's, like, no bugs bothering you. Bugs bugging you. Ha. Okay. I'm getting off point here. So Ned starts with, I know the truth Jon Arryn died for. And Cersei's like, oh yeah? You think I'm gonna fall for that? And Ned's like, okay, fine. We'll talk about something else. And he notices, you know, the big ass bruise that Robert gave her. And he's like, has he done this before? And Cersei says, not on the face, because otherwise Jaime would have killed him.
Even if it meant his own life.
Yeah, my brother is twice the man your friend is, or something like that.
I think she says 100. Like,
yeah.
Which is brutal for him.
Your brother or your lover? And she's like,
dun, dun,
both.
Yeah.
She just, like, ups and owns it. She's like, whatever.
Yeah.
What did you think about this?
I was like, what? And then, because when I read, like, that part, then I went back and, like, reread the chapter right then and there, like, before continuing, because I was like, what? And then I was like, Because before, when I was reading the entire chapter, I was like, what is he talking about? What is he talking about? Moving on. And then as soon as he said that,
So you did not
I was
get
like,
to it until...
I didn't. But then as soon as he said it, like, because I was thinking about it as I was reading it, right? But it didn't click until he said it. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I should have been paying attention.
Yes. So she admits it, and Ned's like, well, what about Bran? And she's like, yeah, we totally pushed him out the window too.
Yeah.
He saw us. And at this point, Ned's like, I wonder what I or Catelyn would have done in the same situation. Yeah. And he's like, especially if it had been Catelyn and Jon's life.
Yeah.
Like,
what I found interesting was they were talking about, like, your own children versus someone else. And Ned listed all of his children, and he didn't list Jon, which further makes me think that Jon is Lyanna's kid.
I didn't even think about it like that.
Because he lists every single person instead of saying, like, oh, what would I have done if my kids were there? He was like, no, what would I have done if it was Robert or Rob, Bran, you know? And I'm like, okay. And then he just never, I'm like, interesting.
Interesting indeed. So what happens here? Oh yeah, so he's just wondering, he's got some real empathizing powers. Like, this person pushed your kid out a window, and you're like, I wonder if I would have pushed my kid out a window. Basically.
No, he's
not
saying,
my kid, but a kid.
Yeah. He's thinking about it. Yeah. I was like, dang, that's a lot of emotional maturity, but, like, I don't know if you know?
Yeah.
Like, you could have just been mad, but good on you, I guess, that you can be that emotionally mature.
Mm-hmm. And so, go ahead.
No, it's good.
So he's like, so all 3 of your kids, they're Jaime's. And Cersei's like, yeah, thank God. Because that's literally what she says. She's like, fortunately, because I don't want no Robert's kids. And Ned's like, yeah, how did you avoid having Robert's kids? And turns out she had an abortion. Like, she found out a way to get rid of a pregnancy when she didn't want it. So good on her for being inventive like that. And other times she just avoided direct, like, vaginal intercourse so that she wouldn't get pregnant by Robert. So she's smart like that.
But also, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, that's, like, think about how much hatred she has to have for him to take such a big risk. Like, that is a really big risk. Right,
because if she'd had, like, one kid that looked like Robert, then, like, the rest of her kids wouldn't be questioned so much.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but she was like, no, I can't even do that one thing. Like, that's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy.
And Ned's wondering the same thing. Like, why do you hate Robert so much? And turns out that on their wedding night, Robert called out for Lyanna. That, dude, just keep your mouth shut. Like, I kind of don't, like, this is a thing that people, like, you hear about, or it's always like a thing that happens in movies or shows or something.
Where someone says, like, the wrong,
person's name. Yeah. And I'm like, but why would you say any name? Just keep it to yourself, dude.
I feel like it's not, like, an intentional, I'm like, gonna say
you're
Lyanna.
In the moment. Yeah, so it's, you're in the moment, it slips out, fine. Yeah. But yeah, so she has not been fond of him since then. And he's like, I get it, but, like, she knew that he was kind of in love with Lyanna. Like, that was not a new thing for her, you know? Yeah.
I think it's just one of those things where you take, like, one moment and then that's all you can focus on. Mm-hmm. And Ned kind of also
done that.
Yeah. And Ned also points it out. He's like, I don't know who I pity more. And they're both doing the same thing. They're both stuck on, like, a singular thing. Like,
right, because Robert's all like, what my life would have been with Lyanna, instead of being like, if I had been nice to Cersei, maybe I could have had a nicer life with her.
Yeah, exactly. And then... Yeah.
And so Ned's like, I'm sorry for y'all, but you know what I must do. And Cersei's like, must? and then like trails her fingers up his thigh and is like, wink, wink, want to be friends with benefits? And Ned's like, what? No. Is this like, what you offer to Jon Arryn? And she slaps him, which I was kind of like on her side for this. Like, also though, like she did try to use her sexuality to just get him on her side, but I get it. I get why she slapped him, and I also get why he reacted that way.
Yeah,
I can see both sides.
Yeah,
and you know, she's like, "You're so honorable. What about your bastard? What about his potential mother, Ashara Dane? I heard she totally threw herself into the sea because of what you did to her."
All of these like things, and I guess like because like all of the things that we've heard from Ned are from Ned or Catelyn's perspective. This is like our first time getting like rumors, you know?
Right. Yeah, we had heard this rumor. Like Catelyn had heard it, so that had come up in one of her chapters.
I did not remember that.
Yeah, like she had heard this rumor, and she asked Ned about it, and Ned was like, I ain't saying nothing. He is my blood, and that's what matters.
Oh my gosh.
And that's like one of the things people like cite as evidence that he says Jon is my blood instead of saying Jon is my son, you know?
I see. But I guess even though I agree with people on that, I'm gonna, like, if you take the other side, if you take the other side, like in this world, if someone's your bastard, would you still be like, oh my gosh, they're my son? Or would you just say, like, they're my bastard, you know? Like, could that be another reason for, like, not saying...
Yeah, it could be anything. Yeah, it's definitely, like, that's what theories are. They just take anything and then, you know, twist it to fit the hypothesis.
That's what's fun about it.
Yes, it is fun, for sure.
Yeah, and then Ned's like, y'all should run and take your money with you.
Yes.
And he's like, because Robert is gonna find you, and it's not gonna be pretty. Like, trust me.
I promise you, no matter where you flee, Robert's wrath will follow you. And I love what Cersei says in response. She says, and what of my wrath, Lord Stark? Like, you're all about Robert and his great anger, but what about me? Like, no. Okay, I didn't mean it like that, but that's a good... Like, Ned never considered her feelings in this.
Yes, that's true. But I guess
it's a good line. I just think so. And Cersei's like, you know, you made a mistake. When you came to King's Landing, you should have taken the throne for yourself. And Ned's like, yeah, I've made a bunch of mistakes, but that's not one of them. And then the line, when you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground.
Dang.
Good line, isn't it?
It's really good. I was like, oh my gosh. And I love that they like ended the chapter with it. I was like, yes, this is...
All right, so that's, like you said, that's where the chapter ends. Cersei leaves, and he's just left there sitting. And I'm like, did he tell Tom to, like, come look for him that evening? Like, how's he going to get back to his bed?
Oh my gosh, true. I mean,
right?
He could just sleep in the woods, can't he?
He could, but, like, I don't think that's... Like, he has a shattered leg. It can't be that comfortable to sleep on the ground.
That's true. That is true.
Anyway, that's besides the point. Did you enjoy this chapter the second time around?
It was good. Yes, I enjoyed it.
It's definitely one of those chapters where you definitely appreciate it in a different way the second time around. Because the first time you're just so shocked. You're like, my world is shook. I don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah. And then it's like the first time, because it's like, you know, when you get that like initial shock in the chapter, it makes you like read faster because you're like, there's more. Yes. But then the second time it's details. Like, yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. So, you already kind of told us that you didn't guess it until he actually
I really
said
didn't
it.
Because I was rationalizing. Because like the cryptic lines he was saying. The reason I didn't guess it is because instead of, like, connecting the cryptic lines to the story, I was connecting it to, like, other stuff. Like? I'd have to pull out, like, the actual chapter to see what I was saying. But I do remember I was like, oh, this means like blank. And then I like reread what I wrote and I was like, I was rationalizing so much. Because you know when you don't understand something, so you like grasp to whatever you can. What did I say? Hold up. Okay, so when he said, this was the sword that killed Jon Arryn, and it will kill Robert as well, a slower death, but full of certain, like, now I know what he meant, but I was sitting there and I was like, what? So then instead of, like, realizing, I was like, oh, it's about Robert's, like, inability to do anything, so that's what got Jon, like, killed. I was like, oh, Jon didn't...
That would make sense. Yeah.
You know? And I was like, oh, that's why he got killed. And then the entire time...
Incompetence killed him.
Yeah. And then I was like, of course, incompetence is gonna kill him slowly. That makes sense. So I was like, that sort of thing. So instead of like, you know, I went in the wrong direction yet again.
That's okay. At least you're thinking critically.
On the wrong train.
You know, you shouldn't have to take English classes anymore, because like, this is... far more in depth than we ever go in any English class.
Oh my gosh.
So, okay. So Cersei in this chapter, as you saw, she like totally owns up to everything. Was this smart on her case?
I think so. Because, like, the first time I read it, I was like, what is she doing? You know? But the second time I read it, I was like, okay, it was obvious that he knew from her perspective, you know? Like when he was like friend or brother or lover, like by that point, like, what's his name? Ned. I was about to call him Robert. At that point, like she could tell that Ned knew. So the best thing for her to do, that I think she was trying to do, was like, okay, I'm gonna tell him the truth. I'm gonna be and
try to win him to my side.
Yeah. When she was like, "Oh, you'll be the hand," you know, what's her son's name? Joffrey. Joffrey still hasn't come of age, you know. Like, we need a good, responsible hand like you, you know, like that whole thing. So I do think it was. I think if Ned wasn't Ned, it would have been very smart of her. But Ned, I think she just underestimated how far Ned's like honorability would go, because she was probably thinking about like, oh, him and Robert have drifted apart, it'll be a little bit easier to convince him. But I think she just underestimated Ned's like
Nedness.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, so you don't think that Ned had somebody, you know, hiding in the bushes listening?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Wouldn't that have been smart though?
It would have, but he ain't like that.
Right.
Also, who does he have? Like, he's gonna get Fat Tom to sit there in the bushes? Like, who else is he gonna get? There's nobody there left anymore.
I don't know. Littlefinger?
He doesn't trust... Littlefinger, he didn't trust him to tell him anything, though.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so, after this moment, what will Cersei do?
Also, Cersei was in disguise, so it would be a little bit more...
Was she in disguise?
Well, I don't know if she was in I thought she was in
No.
Because he was like, oh, she dressed more plainly, and then she had, like, a hood.
But, like, she takes off her hood.
That's true. You're right. She takes off her hood, like, the entire time.
Yeah. Okay, so, my question. What will Cersei do?
Oh my gosh. I have two predictions, and they're equally as dumb as the other one.
I want to hear them all.
They're so dumb. Okay, I'm just gonna see how I wrote them down.
Okay.
Okay. Wait, what? Hello? Bro.
You're talking to your book?
Okay. Both of these are so dumb.
That's fine. Just tell me.
Okay, so the first thing is... Joke's on you, Robert already knows. You know? Robert already knows. Oh,
and he just doesn't care.
Yeah. But then I was like, that's so out of character. Like, that doesn't make sense, you know?
Right.
Because I was thinking, I was like, why is she so calm about this? Like, what does she think she's gonna do? And then I was like, wouldn't it be so crazy if Robert knew? But, like, you know, thinking about it, I'm like, that's just not in character. And I feel like, but... Like, no, it still doesn't make sense. Because I was thinking about all those times where he was like... do you remember that one chapter...
Where he was like, how could I have a son like Joffrey?
Yeah. I was thinking about that, and I think that's
Yeah.
what led me to that. But then I was like, I don't think it makes sense in the grand scheme of things.
Right, because then if he knew, he wouldn't have said that to Ned.
It just, it folds on itself. But it's a theory.
Okay,
It's allowed to be
the
dumb.
other one?
The other one's even dumber. So,
Okay.
okay, wait. Sorry, my notes this time are, like, not clean. Usually I, like, put everything together, but it's not. Okay, so this one, okay. So, I think if Cersei could be like, Robert, Ned raped me, and then it would be this, like, whole... No, because then it's, like, treason, right? So then that would get, like, Ned...
Killed before he can even tell Robert?
Yeah, because, like, he's committed treason to the kingdom.
Right. Okay.
Because I was thinking...
I gotta say, that is, like... You've got quite some brain there.
It's a dark... I know, it's a very dark prediction. But I would, like... I was like, what? Because I was like, if Ned tells Robert, like, Robert's gonna be like... You know, he's gonna, like, go
react
off.
As we expect him to.
He's gonna react. So I was like, it needs to be something where, like, Robert won't even listen to Ned. So my brain went into dark corners there.
Okay.
But I also don't think she would do that. I don't...
So you think that she's gonna stay and deal with it? She's not gonna flee like Ned suggested?
I don't think she's gonna flee. I don't
Okay.
think so. Well...
And Ned's... Oh,
she
ahead.
could flee... Okay, wait. This is probably my most logical prediction out of the three. Let's say she flees to what's the place? What's her
Casterly
house?
Rock?
Yes. Casterly Rock. Why are all of the names, like, none of the names are in my brain yet. Okay.
It's
so
okay.
let's
You
say
should just, like, stare at the map for a few minutes every day.
Let's say she flees to Casterly Rock, and then, you know, like, Tywin has connections everywhere, and as we've talked about, like, he probably has, like, he kind of has more power over the kingdom than, like, Robert would if it came down to it. So I think she could just flee to Casterly Rock, and then they could all just prep for war.
Right. I mean, okay, sure. The Lannisters, like, they're holding the debt over Robert, and they have, like, their rich house and everything. But if the queen is found to have committed treason, it won't be hard for Robert to rally the rest of the Seven Kingdoms with him and go attack the Lannisters. Like, maybe the Lannisters can fend off Robert himself, but can they fend off the entire kingdom?
What are they again? They're like Wardens of the South? What's their title?
West.
West. Okay. And... Oh, the East was the one that he was gonna give...
To Jaime.
Right.
But everybody in the Eyrie is like, we're here for the errands.
Yes, that's true.
Fuck Jaime.
That is true. Okay, yeah, you're right. They can't just... Because if they could, they would have at this point just taken everything.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay, then I don't know. I don't know what she can do, you know? But I don't think it's just gonna be as easy as Ned thinks, you know? Where he's like, oh, I'm gonna go to Robert. It's gonna be this whole thing. Oh, wait, I had that prediction of hunting accident.
Yeah.
Hunting accident
Hunting
happens.
accident.
Yes, exactly. So those are my four.
Wait, your fourth prediction is that, wait, Robert's gonna have a hunting accident, but you predicted that he'll be like, he won't be available for a few days, but once he is, what then?
One of the other three predictions.
Okay. Okay. So
I can assure, I bet you it's gonna be something simpler than anything I've predicted, but I don't know. I don't know
either. I mean, I do, but I won't tell you. So, you do think that Ned is gonna go on with his plan to tell Robert. He's not, like, been swayed by Cersei's, like, but they're my children, you know?
No.
Okay.
No. Because the whole point of that was, like, you guys have to run because I don't want you to die. You know?
Okay.
Like, he's doing
once he,
best.
like, as you said, that if she doesn't flee, and Ned realizes that she's not gonna flee, is he still gonna go on with his plan to tell Robert?
that's a good question. Because, like, because on one side is, like, I have to be honorable. There's this, there's this thing that I know I have to tell the king. And the king's my friend.
I can also get the kids killed.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, then it's that dilemma of, am I responsible for, like, because obviously Ned's gonna be like, if the kids get killed, he's gonna be like, I'm the one who told. That's an interesting dilemma. I don't know what Ned would do. What's he gonna do? Okay, maybe but he can't do nothing. Ned can't do nothing. But he has to do something. Okay, you know what? He's gonna go through with it. Tentatively, he's gonna go through with it. And he's gonna be like, Robert, listen to me. Don't do this.
Okay, so that happens. Fine. And let's just assume that Ned tells Robert. How does Robert react?
Robert's like, I'm gonna kill that woman, and I'm gonna kill her kids, and I'm gonna kill Jaime. I don't think he'll be able to kill any of them.
Okay. Why not? Like, if they're still in King's Landing, and he's, the king.
That's true. Well, maybe, I don't know.
You don't know anything, but the point of this exercise is to guess.
Let's see, but all of the guesses have like a, that's not possible. Okay, let's say...
That's for me to decide.
Let's say that he's like, okay, I'm gonna... I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Moving on. Did Ned make a mistake by not taking the Iron Throne for himself?
I think so, man. Like, think about it.
He would have been a better king than Robert.
Think about if Ned was the king, man. Like, that would have been, I don't know if it would have been, like, because, it's been several years, and a person's, if you become a king, you can change as a person. But from what we see, if like, the Ned who he is today, took the throne, that would have been great news for the kingdom. Yeah, I guess I don't really know, like, if Ned's always been like this, But inherently, yeah, I think it was a mistake. Ned, just go for it.
Okay. And, so Sansa and Arya are headed back to Winterfell.
Yeah.
They're gonna be all safe and cool and, make it back and be reunited with Bran and Rickon and Robb.
I want to say yes, but I feel like, okay, what if the Lannisters...
and they die?
No, they're not gonna die.
Okay.
What if the Lannisters, like, intercept their ship and they're like, you took Tyrion, I'm gonna take your girls.
Okay.
Which would be really, really awful, and I really hope that they just, like, get to go back home, because Bran needs somebody, and I feel like they could, like, help him out. But I feel like that's just too good of a thing to happen in the second half of the book.
Okay, so you think only bad things are going to happen in the second half of the book?
Not only, but I think that the good things are going to be much smaller in proportion to the bad things, and I feel like that's a really good thing.
Okay. Alright, so will Cersei's kids be saved? Like, since we're talking about kids being safe?
Yes. I don't think they're going to die any point soon.
All right.
I mean, I also wouldn't have predicted that Viserys would die so soon, but here we are.
Yes. Speaking of Viserys, let's talk about Daenerys.
Visceral Viserys.
No more.
Visceral Viserys is no more.
Okay, you start.
I'm going to drink some water.
Okay.
Water.
We talked about this chapter for 40 minutes. Holy shit.
I think most of it was just me going, I don't know. If we're honest here. Okay, cool. Okay, it keeps getting louder.
No, most of it was you going, Ned, no, Robert, no, Ned, no, Robert.
That's true. Okay, the monitor's not even changing. I feel like I just have to talk in this whisper tone, because this is, like, the perfect volume. But I'm not even that close. This is weird. Okay, I think I'll just turn
talk
this
normal. I'll fix
Okay,
it
so-
afterwards if I need to.
We start the chapter. And I think, like, we've seen a lot of, like we've seen pretty, like, bad things in these books so far. Like, we've, you know, like, witnessed attempted murder. We've, like, witnessed rape. Like, we've witnessed a lot of things. We've witnessed a lot of things. But I gotta say, this one had, like, I had the biggest, like, physical reaction. Where I was
Which
like,
part?
What? Dany was eating a raw horse heart. And as she was
Right.
describing it, I was just like,
Blah.
I was like, what? Like, and I'm not
Right.
that, like, you know, skittish. Squirmy
Yeah.
or skittish when it comes to these things. But just thinking about it, I was like, what? But anyway, she's doing
It
that.
is a little gross.
And she has to eat it all and keep it down, because if she doesn't, her kid could be, what was it?
A girl.
Yeah. And a girl was equated with, what were the other things? I wrote it down. Oh, with being weak or deformed. So it was like, oh, my kid could be deformed, weak, or female. And I was like, so you're equating all of these things. Like, you're saying that's...
chapter is really interesting in that, like, we see the power that the Dosh Khaleen hold over the, the Dothraki, but at the same time, we see all the ways in which they are misogynistic. Like,
It's,
like, we don't want
it's
girl
weird.
kids.
It's so weird, yeah. But then at the same time, it's like, yeah, you have this very high position in our society.
Yeah, because they're literally the only kind of entity that has power over all the Khalasars.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's weird. Like, in a way, they're like a matriarchy, but with very problematic patriarchal like aspects to it. I don't know. It's an interesting combination. Yeah. I wonder where George R.R. Martin like drew inspiration for this part. Like, what societies in our world are similar to this.
That's true.
Like, I know, for example, indigenous communities in North America were prominently matriarchal, and it would be like all the elder women would pick who the leaders of the group were going to be. So in that way, it's kind of like, yeah, they had the power over who the leader would be, but they themselves weren't the leaders.
Yeah.
In some cases, like, this is obviously not the case for all indigenous peoples, but I think in some cases it's an interesting aspect.
Yeah, for sure.
So back to the heart eating.
She's and she was talking about how this was the part that I think like when I was like, what? Horse flesh?
Half-clotted blood.
Yeah, when they were talking about like, oh, she's eating a horse, I was like, okay, this is gross, but like moving on.
Whatever.
But then they were talking about how like the weeks leading up to it, she was preparing by eating bowls of half-clotted blood and chewing on dried horse flesh.
It's the half-clotted blood. And she's pregnant, like, what?
And I'm on my period right now, and I think that was one of those, like, additional layers of, like, this is disgusting and I don't want to think about it right now.
Right, yeah. Too much blood.
And then I was like, moving on. And then she's like, yeah, I haven't eaten in a day and a night, and I'm just hoping it stays down.
And she's going at it, and she looks over at Drogo, and Drogo's like, yeah, that's my wife. She's got this. He's, like, kind of proud, and that's, like, the first time we've seen kind of affection from him. Yeah,
but I think, like, imagine if she wasn't able to... Okay, she's able to keep it down, and it's this thing of, like, okay, you're able to keep it down, your kid's gonna be amazing, and your kid's a dude, you know? But if you're not able to keep it down, I feel like it wouldn't be a kid thing anymore. It would be like, no, it's your fault that you weren't able to keep it down.
Oh, yeah, it's your fault that your kid isn't a boy.
Yeah. Which is kind of ironic, because it's not actually the female who controls that.
Yeah. A lot of genetics in this episode.
Yeah.
You know, dominant and recessive genes and...
Yes.
XY chromosomes. I don't know. Okay, so... once she finishes, the crones declare that her kid will be a boy. All hail... the stallion who mounts the world. Well,
Yes.
it's not then. It's like, at this point, I think one of the oldest women of the Dosh Kalin, like she has only one eye, so she closes it and peers into the future.
And everybody's
then
like
she
staring at
proclaims-
her, and they're like, "Ooh, what's she gonna say?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "The stallion
Your
who mounts the
kid."
world."
Yeah. And everybody's happy, and Dany's like, I will name him Rhaego.
That's kind of a cute name.
Yeah.
Rhaego.
Rhaegar and Drogo.
Rhaego.
Okay.
I feel like it's just like a fun name. Anyway.
It's a good name.
And then...
So at this point, we learn a bit more about who the Dosh Kalin are. They're all the widowed Khaleesi's. Like, whenever their husband Khals would die, they would get sent to Vaes Dothrak, and they joined this group. And now they reign over all Dothraki. It's kind of cool.
It's interesting. Like, once again, like, their society is so interesting. It's like, yeah, like, after your husband dies, like, after, like, if you're the Khal's wife, if your husband, after your husband dies, you get to this, like, you have this, like, extra
Another
layer
level.
of authority. And I was like, that's
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, but Dany's thinking about it, and she's thinking that one day that she might be one of them, you know?
Yeah.
Whether she wants to be or not, so...
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so at this point, everybody rides over in a procession to the lake that they call the Womb of the World. Do you remember why it's called that?
I do not remember.
It's because the legend is that the first man emerged from the lake on horseback.
Ooh.
And from him, all the people of the world were born. Without any, like, female contribution, okay?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yes.
anyway, so Dany goes and cleans off in the lake, and she comes out, and Drogo's like all turned on by this, and he won't even let her get dressed and has sex with her right then and there, because he just has to. And then finally she can get dressed, and then they go to the party hall, and everybody's screaming, "The stallion that mounts the world! The stallion that mounts the world!" And Dany's like, "Where's my brother that mounts the cart?"
Where's my brother that mounts the cart? That was funny.
I came up with that right then and there, I swear.
And she's like,
So-
"Hey, Mr. Jorah,
Yeah.
come sit with me." He's like, "Oh my gosh, princess." And she's like, "Yo, where's my bro?" And then Jorah that wasn't even that funny.
I just like that it rhymed. Yo, where's my bro?
And then Jorah's like, "Oh, Viserys has gone to the Western market because he wants wine and, you know, he wants people to come fight for him." And Dany's like, and they're having a conversation back and forth, and they're talking about how, like, he doesn't have anything to pay people. And she's like, "Jorah, you should have gone with him, because what if he gets scammed or, you know, killed or something?" And
Jorah's like, "Well, nobody can spill blood, but Dany has heard of people being strangled. So,
which is interesting foreshadowing.
yeah, not spilling blood doesn't necessarily mean you can't kill someone.
Yeah.
You just have to be creative about it."
Yes, gotta use those brain muscles.
Yeah. And, you know, Jorah's like, hopefully he won't steal anything and therefore won't get killed.
Yeah.
And speaking of stealing, apparently Viserys had planned on taking Daenerys' dragon's eggs. Until, you know, Jorah was like, "I'm gonna cut off your hands if you do." And he was like, "Fine, I won't." But, like, that was his plan.
Yeah.
Because he thinks that anything that belongs to Daenerys and she belongs to him, everything belongs to him. It's like, oh.
Oh my gosh. Do you remember when I was like, "Oh my gosh, maybe he could get some redemption." Right? Like, before, like,
Before.
like when he first, like, came in and he was, like, drunk and, like, just, like, gargling nonsense or whatever. Like, by that point, I was just like, okay, drunk words are sober thoughts. And at that point, I was just like, and this was, like, before, you know, like, I realized he was gonna die. And at this point I was like, okay, I remember telling Nav that there could be some redemption for him. I just don't see it anymore. Even if he, like, becomes a good person in the 5th book. But now he's not even gonna get the chance.
No, he won't. I'm way too giddy about this. But it just he sucks so much.
He's really, really awful. And he embodies everything awful.
Yeah. And so, going back to the eggs, and Dany's like, but why would he want my eggs? Like, they're just rocks.
Yeah.
And she's surprised to learn at the value of the eggs. And, you know, she's like, well, if he wants them, he can have them. He is my brother and my king. And Jorah's like, I guess he's your brother. I don't know about your king anymore. Yeah. And Dany's like, yeah, but he's the only person that he's the only family I have left.
Yeah.
He's the one who taught her everything about her homeland.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, he matters to her. But Jorah's like, yeah, he might have been the only family you had left, but look around. All these thousands of people are your family now. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And at this point, Dany asks Jorah, what's the deal with the stallion that mounts the world? And Jorah explains that apparently it's like some ancient prophecy that the stallion who mounts the world will be the one to unite the world into a single Khalasar. You know, all the people will be his herd, something like that.
Yeah.
So you'd guess, like, there would be something bad in this prophecy, but turns out it's, like, the best prophecy ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then suddenly, Viserys comes into the hall all drunk, and he's looking real shabby, and he's carrying his borrowed sword, and the entire hall goes quiet, and Daenerys is like, hey, Jorah, go stop him. He's gonna get himself killed. And Viserys is like, nobody can kill me. Ha ha ha, Drogo. And Drogo's like, go sit in the back, dude. He's like, wait. Viserys wants to sit, like, in a place of honor, obviously. And Drogo's like, nope, you go sit over there, Cart King. And at this point, Viserys draws his sword, and then he spots Daenerys, and he goes over to her and threatens to cut out her fetus and take her back if Drogo doesn't fulfill his end of the bargain. And at this point, I love this line. Viserys was weeping, she saw, weeping and laughing, both at the same time. This man who had once been her brother. Like, at this point, she's already like,
yeah,
we ain't doing this anymore.
Yeah.
Like, only 2 minutes ago, she was like, he's my brother, my king. And now she's like, yeah, dude, you're dead.
Yeah. And I think it's just because, like, every other time where it happened, it was also this thing of, like, oh my gosh, like, you suck. You're just a whore, you know, like, to her. But I feel like, I guess, like, with this one, it's, like, her and her kid. So at this point, it's just like, no. Now you've crossed the line.
Yeah. Like, that makes sense. And poor Jiqui, who's the official translator, doesn't want to translate what he's saying for Drogo, and Daenerys is like, it's okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, she musters up all her Dothraki and explains it to Drogo, and Drogo says something, which apparently he says that you shall have a splendid golden crown that men shall tremble to behold. Isn't that so?
Yes.
I wonder if that's exactly what he said, or if he said, I'm gonna melt some gold on his head, and Daenerys, like, made it all pretty.
Yeah. I like the idea that she made it all pretty just to, like, mock him one last time before he died. I like that idea.
Mm-hmm. And so Viserys smiled and lowered his sword. That was the saddest thing. The thing that tore at her afterward, the way he smiled. That was all I wanted, he said. What was promised.
The fact that he literally, like, he was like, oh great. Like, he was proud of himself for what he just did because he got what he wanted. Like, that's...
Yeah, he thinks, like, threatening's gonna get him what he wants.
Yeah.
He is so wrong. He really does not understand the Dothraki.
Like, I don't understand how he's so... Like, is it just, like, like, being delusional is his way of dealing with his trauma. Like, why is he so delusional? You know what I mean? Like,
maybe it is his way of dealing with his life.
It probably is, but it's...
Right.
I don't think it's a
Also,
great way,
like,
but...
Have we ever mentioned the Targaryen incest?
Yeah.
Like, they don't got great genes.
Yeah.
Not that, I don't know. That like, argues for the nature over nurture side of things. Okay, you know what? I don't know.
I think what you're... Because he was, like, alive when his parents were alive, you know? So I guess you're trying to say,
So he, like, remembers being, like, back in the day when he was so great, and now he's lost everything, so he just can't deal with that.
Yeah.
Okay, either way, he's gone. He don't matter no more.
Yeah.
So Drogo comes over to Dany, and as he does this, his blood riders sees Viserys and some, cooks. They empty out a pot over a fire, and Drogo throws his belt of pure golden medallions into it. And Viserys has suddenly understood what the hell's gonna happen, so he starts to scream and beg. And Jorah's like, hey, Dany, you might want to look away. But she refuses. And at this point, I think it also... So she, like, kind of harasses her stomach and is like, no, I will not look away. And I think that points to also the fact that him going after her son, like, or her potential child, like, that was crossing the line.
Yeah.
And that's why she's like, I want to see him die.
Yeah.
And all nonchalant, Drogo upends the pot of molten gold over Viserys' head. And he dies, and no drop of blood is spilled.
Yeah. You know that game? Dumb ways to die. So many dumb. Anyway, it's just... I don't know why I thought of that. Like...
This is not a dumb way to... Well, it is... It's also very intriguing. Like
it is, but I just thought of it just for fun.
Right, it makes
not
sense.
Because it related or anything.
Right.
But yeah, very interesting. Like, I don't think, because in many books and movies and stuff you hear about, I don't think I've ever heard about something like this. Like, this is a very inventive way to kill someone.
This is actually based on some historic thing where I don't know who or I don't know where. Somebody... Wait, what was it? Somebody forced molten gold down this one guy's throat. Like, that was the way he died. I think that's that... I remember reading this somewhere, but I don't have my sources. I'm sorry. Just Google it, So, anyway.
No, I can't. Then I'll find spoilers.
No, not you.
Oh, okay.
Listeners, Google it. Not you. No, I never mean that when I say Google it. Okay, so he was no dragon, Daenerys thought. Curiously calm, fire cannot kill a dragon. In the end.
Yes. Both of these chapters had
so good.
Best ending line.
Mm-hmm. They were just so good, which is why I was extra frustrated last week when you kind of spoiled yourself on one of them. Because imagine if you had read both of them for the first time, how blown your mind would have been.
I feel like... Yeah, that's true. Why did I have to do that for literally, like...
The best chapter.
Like, the really good, like, two that were just, like...
It's okay. It worked out. Since you were kind of over the shock of it, we were able to have a more sensible conversation about it.
That's fair.
Something good comes out of everything. So, anything to add for this chapter? Any feelings? Any thoughts?
I'm just gonna see if I had any more notes.
Okay.
I don't know why I had to say it like that, but I did. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. I didn't really have anything else.
Okay, so let's talk about some predictions then.
Okay.
I only have 2 questions.
Okay.
Will Daenerys' kid be the stallion that mounts the world?
he'll try, because, you know, he's going to be told his whole life that he's the stallion who's going to mount the world. But I don't think that, you know, he's just going to, like, unite everybody and, like, live as a single Khalazar. And, like, I don't think he's going to conquer the whole world and then be, like, the single leader of the world. I just don't think that that's...
So he'll be raised to be the stallion who mounts the world,
Yes.
but not that he necessarily will turn out to be.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, what if somebody... Okay, so let's say, like, the mother's not able to, like, swallow the heart, and then it still ends up being, like, you know, like, a really good, like, warrior dude. Like, does that happen?
He fought against his destiny.
I see.
His mother tried to sabotage him, but he was too strong for that bullshit.
I see.
That's what I imagine it being.
I got
so,
you.
Now that Viserys is dead, will Daenerys / Drogo / Rhaego pursue the Iron Throne?
Oh, wait, yeah. Because that has been Viserys'... Okay, so even though Dany's like, oh my gosh, he's not my brother, she's still like, that's a good question, though. Because of, you know, everything that Viserys has told her, she's like, he's gonna take us back home. You know, like she was talking about that the last time we saw him. I don't think they'll pursue it. I think it'll just be, once again, that thing of, like, my son will pursue it. I think I'd said that before as well. I think she's just gonna be like, son, this is what your uncle told me, and this is what you have to do.
But she's not gonna, like, help him along the way, try to make his, you know, send him to the right college and set him up for success. I don't know.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. But I just, like, I think she'll focus, like, for now, she'll focus more on, like, raising him, rather than, like, right now being like, oh, I'm gonna raise him, and then we're also gonna plan to take over the Iron Throne, you know? I feel like it'll be more of, like, okay, let's raise you to be
one
really
thing
strong.
at a time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Those are all the questions I have. Do you want to move on to next chapters?
Yes. I'm gonna write this down.
Please do.
Okay.
So next time, we're reading chapters 47 and 48.
Only 2.
Yes.
Okay.
Any guesses or any wishes for who you want to see?
I want to see Tyrion again, because I feel like then we might find out what's up with the Lannisters. I want to see Tyrion and Jon, but I don't think that that's going to happen, because then there's no Ned or Catelyn in there.
So you think it's going to be a Ned or Catelyn, and you hope it's going to be a Tyrion and or Jon?
Yes.
Well, you're not wrong. So, next chapter, 47, is Ned.
Bro! Oh my gosh.
Write it down.
Got you.
And chapter 48 is Jon.
Yay! Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Ned and Jon are my 2 favorite characters.
Jon fangirl, I told you.
I am not a Jon fangirl. I just appreciate Jon.
That's what a fangirl. Okay,
no,
so
a fangirl is like, oh my gosh, Jon's so amazing. I don't think that Jon is, you know, gone through all his development yet to be so amazing.
Okay, so he has potential to be amazing?
Yes, that he does.
All right, so what are we going to see from Ned?
Ned, what just happened in Ned's chapter? Oh, the whole Cersei thing. Why did I already forget? Okay, so...
I should hope that after reading it twice or 3 times, you should remember.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Ned, I don't know. Okay, so Ned... Ned...
You said something like he's going to tell Robert's going to be mad. Like, those were the predictions you made in relation to that situation.
Yes.
That's what's going to happen.
All of that's going to happen, yes.
So Robert's going to, you know, come back from hunting. Cersei's still going to be around. She's not going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And Ned's going to go tell Robert. Robert's going to be mad. And that's the general gist of it.
Yes.
Okay. What are we going to see from Jon?
Well, you already told me what we're going to see from Jon. John's going to his initiation or whatever out in the
I'm not saying
beyond
anything.
the wall. Beyond the wall. I forgot what it was called.
Okay.
Beyond the wall. He's gonna get initiated, and I feel like we're either gonna get an idea of where Benjen is, or we're gonna see Benjen, and it'll be like this nice little thing going on.
Okay. Before, I'm just not going to talk anymore. So, those are our next chapters. We got a tweet from somebody this week.
Oh my gosh. Yay.
So, at SimpleBadger27 on Twitter says, I'm so glad you guys are back. I've been loving all the new episodes you're putting out. I also really like this new format of doing multiple chapters at a time.
Oh,
thank you.
Oh my gosh. What was their name again?
At SimpleBadger27.
Thank you.
That's the handle.
SimpleBadger27. Oh my gosh, these messages are so sweet. Just gives me like a fuzzy little feeling inside. It's so weird that like people are like listening. That's just weird.
Yes. But it's also like I finally got around to editing all our backlog of episodes, and I'm so excited to be able to, get people's feedback in real time.
Yeah.
Real time as in they'll have a few days before we record and the last episode comes out to comment on it.
Yeah, that's true.
So, the last thing I just want to say, again, people, if you got any theories or questions for Harmouth for the end of the book, we're kind of approaching it now. Not that I'm caught up on the episodes, I'm not as, worried about... Yeah. Harmouth is showing me her book and where the bookmark is in relation to the end of the book. So we're kind of approaching it. Just email those in. Our email is at popculturesymposium@gmail.com. I will go through all of them, and I do reserve the right to not include some if I feel like they're spoilery or not very good. I don't know. Well, we only have one chapter to discuss everything, so I'm going to have to find the ones that are the most outrageous.
All right.
For example, did you know Varys is a mermaid? That's a theory.
Really?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
But how?
We'll talk about it later.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting, but really weird.
Until next time, farewell, my friends.
Talk to you later.